Good evening and welcome to the Petaluma Community Access Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. And our secretary is absent tonight, so I'll call the roll. Cindy Thomas is here, Domenica Giovannini.
Here.
Judy Kirshner absent, Randy Stewart.
Here.
Rhonda Black is absent, she is out of the country. And Tim Williamson.
Here.
We barely have a quorum, but we got one. Woo. Okay, up next is public comment, and we have one speaker tonight. You wanna
Already?
Yeah.
You move fast with your meetings.
Yeah, you don't get a chance to look over your talking points
No,
again.
it's-
Didn't we warn you about that?
State your name, please.
Robert Tomaszewski.
Easy for
Slower.
Thank you for the minutes. Thank you.
Roberto Tomaszewski. I want to thank the board for, persevering. And I just wanted to say, I know that this could be an action item, which I know we can't, it's not an action item time, but I just wanted to just bring up something that I'm working on that I wanted to get a little clarification on. When you come to whatever that is, you can keep that in mind. Does that
Okay.
work?
Okay, for the viewers, you want to tell us your position?
I'm the radio station manager at Petaluma Community Access for
Thank you.
KPCA.
Welcome.
Okay, so that being said, one of the things that's an ongoing part of a project is getting the handbook addressed, and it's kind of back open again to some degree. And one of the things I've been doing as part of my projects is, because we're going to be putting TV on our radio on the TV. So I've been looking at different PEG stations that have low power FMs to find out what the rules that they have are, so I can kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, what we have to do, and so. And in the course of that, I've come across some PEG access. Community access stations that that have the LPFMs, and I was looking at some of their handbooks, and I thought, oh, I'm getting a lot of good ideas. I'm learning a lot myself, which is really great. But in this process, I wanted to find out, because of the handbook that I've submitted in August, that wasn't approved by the board. But there's certain things, especially reading these other handbooks, and one of them is 58 pages, and it's not a bad read. It's actually kind of interesting. I was really surprised. But I wanted to find out, because where the handbook is now, what we can, there's some things I need to be sure to get included. So I just want to make sure that some of the points that are not in the current handbook can go back, can be incorporated in it. And that's kind of just what I wanted, that's the message I just want to give. So when it comes time for your discussion about that, to think about, what was it that caused the handbook that I sent in August to not be approved? I guess, what were the issues, so I can know what they are, so maybe those can be changed, and we can still incorporate major sections of the handbook that I wrote, that I feel really have to be in there.
Okay.
So that's,
If any of the directors want to make comments during director comments, we will, but we can't have a discussion
can't
because it's
I
not
know,
on
it's not an
the
action item
agenda.
now.
But
I get that.
appreciate you.
yeah. I was just, because I was kind of mystified, so that's all.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you.
Can
And
you
I'll
just-
work
Rob?
really hard to make it all happen too.
Okay,
No discussion.
no discussion? I
No.
just
No,
want some
We
clarification.
enjoy your
so
radio
That we
anyway.
know.
Thank you.
which
We enjoy the
ones.
fruits of your labor.
Thank you. Listen to Dragnet.
Well, it's part of my, I'm gonna do
Yeah,
Yeah, listen to
that's
it on the
something
way
you have
to
to
and
do
from work.
at your job.
Okay, I'm gonna hang out for a while.
Okay.
If that's okay.
He's gonna hang out for a while. I told her he could.
it. You can run the camera. Practice.
It practically runs itself.
It actually does run itself.
Okay, and bear with me just for a moment because I'm taking the minutes also. Okay, are there any director's comments?
I have one.
Okay.
My staff are working with PCA staff to improve the quality of the video picture on Granicus feed. Hopefully will help for our cable customers also. We're looking for a bigger, nicer, less granular picture of council meetings because we know how exciting they are and people want a really good picture. And there's a new commission coming up called Climate Action, which will also be on TV.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
Nobody can top that.
Okay. I have comments. First, I want to thank Rob for recognizing us. That's nice to be recognized by staff. The handbooks have, during the course of this year, this calendar year, 2019, have been a project of the Policies and Procedures Committee. And that was out of the ordinary because we had a new executive director that was hired in January that was struggling with the project. Therefore, the committee was doing some of the work, and during the course of our work, we hired an interim executive director, which is Jill Newman, and the committee, the Policies and Procedures Committee, recognizing that it isn't really the board's position to even work on the handbooks. It is the job of the executive director. The Policies and Procedures Committee turned that task over to the executive director. And so there was no denial at the board level of anything that you submitted as far as revisions in August. That was, we asked Jill to work with you, the manager, the radio station manager, in revising a handbook that would suffice for the needs of programmers and Petaluma Community Access. So do either one of you, Domenica and Tim are on the Policies and Procedures Committee along with me, and if you guys want to weigh in on that. It's not open for discussion, but comments are welcomed.
I do have a comment. I'm just trying to figure out how. My main comment overall going forward is there should be recognition that the FCC rules stand on their own. So that we have to utilize those, that's given, and then we have our internal handbook, and they're just, that was what I wanted to say. Might have not really been a comment, but.
I just reinforced Cindy's comments. I thought you fairly represented the events.
Okay.
I agree.
You weren't
You weren't there.
When do I
Gotta say
sign?
something.
there.
Yeah.
Save your agreement for when we need it.
Right, and so, and to be, and the clear point that I want to make is that the board works on governing issues. We're the governance part of the organization, and that the executive director is the operations person for the organization. So that's the,
Got it.
yeah, the demarc. Okay.
Okay.
No other comments or announcements? Like we said earlier, Rhonda is in Europe, but lucky girl. She was in Paris last I heard. Yesterday, wasn't she in Paris? She celebrated her birthday in Paris. And Judy is in the midst of some other personal issues. The agenda was sent out last Thursday, and I didn't hear anything about changes or modifications. I have one modification, and that is item 11A under new business for appointment of a board director. As you know, we had an application from Fred Carroll to be appointed to the board of directors. This was on last month's agenda. I did not know that Fred was in Europe. Everybody gets to go to Europe
Yeah,
except for
right.
us, right? Fred was in Europe with his wife on an extended vacation. They just got home from Italy this morning, and I talked to him on the phone this afternoon, and he just wasn't up to being here, and he asked for our forgiveness, and he wants the item moved to the the December agenda. So I am recommended we remove 11A.
Are we gonna have the December
Anything,
meeting?
does anybody else have anything?
So the December 17th?
December 17th, yes. 12/17.
Well, depends on how many people have to go to Europe. Are you planning on Belize again or something?
Not in the winter.
I think that is all I have. So if there's nothing more, we're gonna need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
You mean the agenda?
That too.
Andy. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Nobody's left.
Okay, the minutes of the October 15th meeting were also sent out last Thursday. Were there any corrections, modifications to that?
I was out of town on my extended 2-day vacation, so I didn't get a chance to read them.
Well, I'm gonna need a motion to approve them if there's no changes.
I'll move them.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there anyone opposed? Okay. And the treasurer's report, Randy, you wanna tell us what's up with that, please?
All the bills were paid, there was nothing remarkable that came about last month, the normal functions of the station itself. Going forward, we did receive PEG fees this month from Comcast and AT&T, and they were put in the bank this afternoon, so.
Were they up or down
uh,
from last quarter?
I was unaware if they were up or down.
Jill, did you get a chance to compare to the last quarter's PEG fees to see if there was an increase or decrease?
They just came in and I didn't see anything
Okay.
radically different. It was around
7,000.
Okay, so that's
7 or 8,000.
third quarter.
No. Second quarter.
Oh, from fiscal year, we're talking fiscal year,
Fiscal
yes.
year, yeah. There was some other income that was put in earlier in the month. The reason we didn't get the P&L statements was with the fires that happened, one of the banks was implementing a new program to generate statements, and they ended up being closed for a week. And things kind of went by the wayside, but they got it straightened out. And Ronnie and Company has all the information, and it should be forthcoming in the next day or so.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, Randy. There's no items on the consent calendar. Reports of committees, the executive committee did meet. Do you have the minutes in front of you, Domenica, or?
Yeah, which,
Okay.
what do you? Oh, wait, hold on.
I have the agenda if you need.
I don't have the minutes in front of me because I haven't typed them up yet. But I can find it in a second. Or maybe not. Can I see the agenda? I don't know. That one? Okay. Ooh. There's no armrest there, just in case anyone was wondering. Do not try to use your armrest on your chair. So we reviewed the items for the board meeting here. I think the main thing that came out of Well, two things. We set up a timeline to, for the executive director, posting the job description timeline, all that kind of stuff. We're kind of on the same timeline as next time. It's having the permanent ED that we choose be starting January 1st. And then the other piece was we talked about what our recommendation for the board retreat agenda, and we kind of came down to it really just being about, not only, but about the goals and objectives for the year. I mean, we can use the calendar year if we wanted to. And just really laying those out in a very specific manner so we have direction that can be tracked, and how progress can be tracked.
And we're gonna talk more about the, well, it is on the agenda under new business tonight, so if there's anything weighing on your mind, just save it for then.
Yeah.
But, wanna make sure everybody, I was looking to see the time of the retreat. The retreat is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's only 3 hours. Keep that in mind when we discuss that. Okay. Okay. I don't believe that there were any other committees that met. Did the finance committee meet?
No, Rhonda was absent.
Okay.
And we didn't have any information like
Okay,
that.
yeah, and everything else, there was no meetings.
The fires took their toll on just about everything.
I know,
Everybody was knowing.
I know.
Kind of put things off and have to be dealt with later.
Okay, believe it or not, we have no old business. Okay, under new business, item 11A is tabled for 12/17. 11B, discussion of possible action to approve an agenda for the 12/15 board retreat. And as Domenica said, we decided that the goals and objectives would probably take a good 3 hours.
Did we
So-
jump over the executive director's report?
Did we?
Oh, did
Oh
you?
my gosh.
I was really confused. I was like, wait a minute.
We're so very sorry.
Okay.
I was waiting for that.
Okay, let's back up. Let's go back to executive director's report. I'm sorry, Jill.
Okay. All right, since it was brought up, I'll just jump to number 4 on mine, the handbook. I wanted to first describe my understanding of the handbooks, and I did receive a version, 2 versions originally. One was Rob's version, which was not approved, and then one was the board's version, which was approved. The version of the.
Can we clarify the approval process?
Rob's version never came to the board.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't, that's not-
But it's very different from the one that I was given, and there are 2 different handbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one that.
Right,
Originally I got sent the
I was
wrong
very
one.
clear in how I sent that to you and said
The
that
wrong
one
one.
was a version that was approved
But-
when the radio station first was born, shortly after we started getting programmers. I think maybe we only had about 20 programmers at the time. You can participate here if I'm wrong.
Yes, Rob, you're welcome to come.
Well, no, actually you can't.
Oh, okay.
This is a report, so,
Okay, so then I'll continue.
okay, and then I sent you 2 versions, one that was approved back in 2017, I think, and then the one that was submitted by Rob in August.
August.
Yes.
As
Okay,
long
So the one that was,
As long as we're being picky, is this a report or a discussion?
no, it should be, I just wanted to clarify this.
okay, so then the email that I got and the report, the handbooks that I got was one that was, there are 2 actually. It was a member handbook, and then there was the programmer's handbook, which then I took that and I did compare and contrast to Rob's version, because originally I got an email with a couple of handbooks that they weren't our handbooks. And then I got the right email with the handbook that had the board, the one that you intended to send, Cindy. I think we sent an email about that. It was, we talked about that a couple of months ago, I guess. Because there was a little bit of confusion as to what one I was supposed to be working on. So I did get the one I was supposed to be working on. And then in that one, there were segments of the one from, we've been referring to them as Rob's version and the board's version. And so sections that Rob was talking about were left out, were not in this version that I was to look over and to work on. So that's partially what I wanted to talk about today, was because Rob did get a chance to look at the handbook since it was submitted to the board on October 30. And he had some questions about some important parts that he thought should be in that producer programmer manual. The KPCA general operation section said it was mostly new information, new and important information, and it should be part of that manual. So I did want to mention that. That it wasn't in the original one that I was working on anyhow. When I say original, the one that I started working on. Just to make that point. But that said, I was hoping, and again, it's not a discussion, but I was hoping that we could move that handbook forward, because we're trying to, send it out to the JC and other people, the producer programmer handbook and the member handbook.
Which handbook are we talking about now that you want to move forward with?
Both of them, actually. There's questions in the member handbook that need to be looked at regarding how we're supposed to handle it, and I think there are questions that I believe needed to pass the board. There's certain questions in there in the member, it's all written in red. I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to look at it, but.
Okay, can we clarify, this is not a discussion, but can we clarify that who approves these different can we go through each one and clarify?
Yes.
Because my understanding, the board does not have to approve
Correct.
operational handbooks, so this whole idea that the board approves something,
Okay,
it's
it
not true.
doesn't have to.
We went through, made a bunch of changes as a policies and procedures committee, and then it was turfed back off into the operational role that it belongs in.
Okay, that's great.
So,
Good to know. 'Cause
just to clarify.
We've, the language that I've been hearing has been board-approved handbooks, and so that's kind of the language I've been using. We're happy to move forward with it. We just want to make sure that the board agrees that it looks like it's, it looks like what makes sense to you as well. So.
As long as the policy and procedures is okay, I think, with what you're coming up
Okay.
with. That is pretty much, they're part of the board members.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it will make it a little longer. I know that was a bit of a concern, was that it was too lengthy, and so we're trying to simplify it, so.
We were trying to not duplicate.
Right.
We were trying not to duplicate information, because there's a bunch of FCC information in there, and that's why it was separated out, because that could just be an attachment to the document, so it was more
Okay.
direct.
Okay.
I know I'm breaking the rules, but I feel like I have to say this, because I don't want it to keep going back and forth
Yeah,
like this.
I
Right.
know.
It's
important.
getting really
And
annoying, quite frankly.
Yeah, and we would like to move forward.
That decision was made because that
Right.
was duplication of information already included in another handbook or in the FCC laws.
Okay. Okay, great.
That's why
great.
it went forward the way it did,
Okay. That's
from our
great.
perspective.
We'd still love for you guys to
And-
look at the handbooks,
okay.
though.
And-
They look
and-
pretty good.
okay, and.
You have to
and-
add to it though now, a little bit.
Okay. I just want to make sure you are working with Rob
Yeah.
on the handbook.
Yeah.
Okay, before we put it to print.
Yes,
Correct.
absolutely. That's,
So
I
it's
believe
not,
what Rob's
it's not
here
ready
for.
to go to print, correct?
No, we need to add a little bit more to it to make sure that it's.
Okay.
But it will be ready
Okay.
very soon.
As long as it's not duplicating information or contradicting information, that's what we were looking at.
Oh, okay. Okay, great, excellent. Okay, moving on. Power outages, there were, just briefly, there were, it appears as though there might apparently be an outlet that's not on the backup power system at City Hall, and that's one of the problems we have with our station power going down.
Okay.
The EOC,
Can I ask one thing?
yeah,
You have that on all written. Can you forward that to me so that I don't have to try to write all that down for the minutes? Perfect.
Well, I
Okay,
actually
now I
did.
can listen.
You actually did have it,
Huh?
yeah.
She sent it.
Oh.
I sent it last week,
Oh, okay.
because I'm expected to do.
Thank you.
Why did I miss that?
I
Okay.
don't know.
But it's in emails, so you don't have to write it
Yes,
all down.
yes,
I was gone over the weekend, so I might have missed it. All
Okay.
right.
So the EOC project, for lack of a better term right now, we're calling it EOC, whatever it ends up being. It might have a different,
I highly
Three
encourage
letters.
you not calling it that.
Okay. That's fine. It
I'm
doesn't
very
matter.
adamant about it, actually.
Well, the
Sure, Tim would
project,
agree.
originally I thought that we were already an EOC station, which is why when the power started going down, I was going full bore trying to get generators and things going, but, it's a great program, which, I assume everyone's familiar with, and I'm gonna just slide this down if I can. That's something that, Rob and the city has been working on for a while now. And it's almost there, but not quite. We haven't gotten it locked down yet, which is good, because in the meantime, we are working on getting the correct generators for the job. And, emergency lighting and things like that in case the power goes out at the PCA. So, that said, we're looking into putting a tower either on the Keller Street garage maybe, or possibly on the Moose Lodge. There's been conversation about that. Also about having it be, instead of an AT&T driven, or I guess that's the word I have, driven antenna, it's gonna be a microwave antenna.
That would be the Masonic Lodge, not
The Masonic, okay, Masonic,
Yeah.
that is the Masonic. That's before when I thought you were a Moose person, not a Masonic person. So the Masonic Lodge.
He's the dog walker
He's the
over on
dog-
Sunrise.
So that's moving along. Jeff and Rob are determining what type of generator is legal, what we can use, whether it be propane or gas. There were some questions about that. There's a freelance EOC professional who was apparently a programmer at PCA at one time, and Rob and Jeff are working on setting a meeting with him to just lock down, all
Sorry,
the
the
details of that.
Sorry, a generator for our site or for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and it's actually 2 generators, I guess they have to be linked and that kind of thing, so it's, so we'll be giving City Hall's generator back, thank you very
Oh,
much.
that would be nice.
You can have it back. The next one is the petty cash, which had a $28 change missing or unaccounted for since April. We'd really like to see how we can set that to flush so we can start with a flush box.
Yeah, we'll work with the treasurer.
Okay, handbooks, and then grants. We submitted 3 requests for funding. One was to the Bill Graham Foundation for Jewish Community, the Jewish Community Grant, completed and sent. There's the California Documentary Projects Grant, which I know you're very familiar with now today,
I'm not.
which is completed and sent. Well, she's been texting back and forth with Angela.
Well, while you're doing that, can you please tell us what was applied for with each grant?
Sure, and then the Festival of Trees grant, which was also encouraged to be applied for, and I actually.
That was for the fabulous one.
Fine, yeah, so that's been applied for too. And there's others that are, being looked at, and also, just letters that aren't necessarily considered grants, they're funding that we would be asking for. The Festival of Trees, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, I just heard of it recently, but, it's for community members. There were several questions to answer for the grant. They didn't disclose how much it was for, but I did request that for generators.
That was the fabulous women.
Yeah.
that's-
Fabulous Women of
Petaluma.
Petaluma, yeah.
Great organization.
The Bill Graham Foundation Jewish Community Grant was completed, and that one is part of a step process that Dr. Angela is working on. It's, there's an overall documentary project that was created and designed before I got to PCA, with the idea that different grants would support the next grant asked for it to be like a series of grants. So the Bill Graham Foundation grant is a research and development grant for this California documentary project, I believe. And then the documentary project is the next step in that.
And what's I'm sorry, I'm really lost. What's the California document? Like, is this someone's individual project that we're getting funding for?
I jumped into it. I don't know.
Cause I have, this is.
Okay,
what-
I can tell you.
Okay.
It's,
Let me go back to my notes here.
it has to do with agriculture in Petaluma, the agricultural history of Petaluma.
The Bill Graham Foundation grant is a project called the Petaluma Farmers World History Project, and it's to highlight the history of farmers going back, which include a lot of Jewish farmers, and Dr. Angela, they called me and I referred them to Angela because I didn't know. And so, you know, Tim, do you know Dr. Angela? She has a program.
I think I've heard
She's
her
a
a
radio
couple times,
programmer.
yeah.
She does the Dr. Angela Hour, and she has been
She's
helping.
on before you on
Pardon me?
Thursday? She the one on before you on Thursday?
No, she's on Tuesdays,
Yeah,
Tuesday
Tuesdays.
evenings.
That's close.
And the board person that, Bob is the trustee that called me, and I referred him to Jill and Angela, and she talked with Bob, who said the proposal was a little out of their foundation scope of what they usually do, but that it was so interesting he would encourage it with the other board members. He wanted to know if we already started.
Wait, so I'm still confused. You had me and you lost me again. So we're pitching developing this documentary, and that's what we're pitching?
Yes, funding for the project, correct.
Okay.
That the project is gonna be a year or two long. It's not just something that we're gonna throw a camera in front of a bunch of farmers and it's gonna be an actual documentary, professionally done, that's gonna take 1 to 2 years to do.
And it's also designed to use multimedia platforms. It could be pieces of it, could be podcasts, it could be lots of different ways to get this information out as well.
So how does the
I can't answer a lot of questions.
PCA benefit from that?
It's gonna cost money to do the documentary, so.
Yeah, that's what the grant's really implied, to pay for the documentary. That's what my question is how is the PCA gonna get
It's a community
funding?
service for the community. Our funding, I guess, would come from the grant, and then, of course, we'd need funding for the interns or the volunteers or whoever would be doing this grant.
Equipment, additional equipment that we might
To
need to
offset
do
the
it.
cost? Okay,
Yeah.
Purchase
it's a little
equipment.
clearer now.
Yeah.
Again, it was started before I arrived, so I don't know what the impetus of it was. I just know that my goal would be to pull it off.
And so we're asking for enough money to actually film a documentary. Do we have the capacity for that?
It would be probably, again, a lot to be developed. There's a lot to be developed, so a lot of questions can't be answered right now.
Well, how do we apply for grants for questions, for programs we don't have the answers to?
I don't know. It was in the works before I arrived, so I'm not.
You're overseeing it now though, so you should know. It just worries me, and I'm not saying it's not a cool idea, it just worries me that we don't have the answers to the questions and we're asking for money that we know we can't all get from one place. And then where's the outcome if we only get, I'm just throwing it out, if we get $10,000 from Bill Graham and then we can only go so far and we can't get any other funding, then what's Bill Graham gonna come back and say?
Then we'd have to give it back to them,
The money.
yes.
So that's what I'm saying, is that all these questions should be answered before we're asking for money. That's my,
Is there an estimate of what the documentary's gonna ultimately cost?
Not yet. There hasn't been any money for research and development yet.
Okay,
Well, I mean, the grant actually
but
proposed it, but
this particular one goes in steps, right?
Mhm.
So you reapply.
for the
as-
next
as
stage
you-
of the project.
Okay, I understand that now.
I could put lots more time onto it,
Okay.
actually. Potentially.
Perhaps we should put this on the agenda so that we can allow for Jill to make a presentation
I would prefer that,
in
yeah.
December.
Yeah, I'd like to know what's,
Okay, I'll add that to the list.
and I sent over the county grant, Jill, twice, the link to the county grant. Did you, is that still on your radar? They just approved the whole set today for District Two. District
Really?
One, which is,
I looked for that grant, and the one I saw for you was also the,
I sent it a while back,
yeah.
but if you go to the county of, I don't know, Google the County of Sonoma Community Investment Grants or something like that, you'll find it. Or I can send it again.
I'm
Yeah,
afraid
would you
we're
send
gonna
it
have
again?
to
That'd be
take the
helpful.
rest of this offline and put it on the agenda next month, because we're kind of bordering on working outside of
Is that a block grant?
the actual item, which is the executive director's report, not inquiry.
Okay.
Yeah, we've moved well
um,
into discussion, yeah.
Yes.
The last thing I wanted to add to this discussion was the list of things. We're developing our operations manual, and those are the documents that are currently either completed or nearly completed in the
Okay,
in the
this
manual.
is on the agenda, so hold on, hang on, we'll get to that.
Okay, my
But I
report's
appreciate
done.
that you did it, yeah.
So,
Okay, so anything more for just the report?
no, I'm finished.
Okay. Any questions for Jill? Okay, thank you, Jill. My bad. Okay, so, item 11A was tabled. 11B, discussion and a possible action to approve an agenda for the 12:15 board retreat. And, we talked about, I got too many papers here. Goals and objectives. Does anybody else have any other thoughts before I throw something out here that,
That's for the retreat, right?
Yeah.
for the retreat, the 3-hour retreat on 12:15 from 10 to 1? As we said in the executive committee report, the executive committee came up with goals and objectives, but in listening to Jill's report and how the handbook has, what did you call it? That the handbook draft that we gave her has some red items in it, and I happen to know that one of the red items that she's talking about, or one section with red items in it, is rates for membership that need to be reviewed. Do you want to do that at the retreat?
Why do we need to review the
thought we
rates? I
already-
thought staff had set that.
They're all on the website. I went with the website rates,
I thought
assuming they were the
did this
updated
last
ones.
year, I thought we already increased them, approved them, or whatever had to be
The
done.
handbooks have their own
I
rates.
just renewed my membership, and my membership was at the level that it's been for
We all
quite a
sat
while.
there and talked about it, so anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I don't wanna go backwards and try and figure out where the ball got dropped. What I wanna do is I wanna go forward and get the rates in there that we need, and that would include production rates, which I don't think we've ever solidified. Membership rates, I think we have, but
Yeah,
not production rates. That's been ongoing, as you well know,
yeah.
for a long time.
Is the website accurate for the rates? That's what I went by in the books. $100 for
I have
general.
not looked at it.
Do we want to take a few minutes at the retreat? Because it's not on the agenda, we can't discuss it right now. Do we want to take a few minutes on 12:15 to discuss that? Or do we want to put it on the next board agenda?
I say we do it through retreat because we can kind of intertwine it. It can start our conversation. It can actually guide our conversation about some of our goals and objectives and deliverables, if you want to have that in there.
Okay, so member and production rates. We'll go over it one last and final time and make it effective January 1st. That way we can put in the newsletter in December that rates are about to be adjusted And it's your last chance to go for the current rates that are on the website.
The
What do you
early bird
guys think?
I
special.
don't know if they're gonna go up, but they might not go up. I thought they were.
They're not gonna go
current.
down.
I know.
They're
I didn't-
likely
didn't
gonna
think they're
go
gonna
up. They're likely gonna go up. Anyway. So, that's another thing.
So you need a motion to approve that agenda?
Yeah,
I will move that we approve the agenda to discuss fees and board objectives and goals, or organization objectives and goals
okay,
at the retreat on December
Second.
15th, 2019.
okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's approved. 11C, discussion and possible action to develop an emergency operations plan. Domenica, do you?
Well, I think this just came up because we were having all this back and forth about the EOC stuff. And my suggestion is that obviously working with the city, but we specifically have some sort of internal continuity of operations plan for which is overlaps with what's going on with the city, but kind of laying it out more at a organizational level of, in covering all bases, not just the power goes down. How do we keep the equipment up? It's the power goes down. How do we notify staff? Do they come in? Do they respond? That kind of stuff. I don't
Yeah.
think it's like we have to buckle down and have it done next week. I just think that it's something to consider, especially before the next fire season, for sure, it should be done by then. Like I said, I don't think the floods are gonna impact our infrastructure, although heavy winds could, I guess.
We're working on that as we speak. We've been doing it for the last few months, actually, working on the procedures manual and trying to get generators rolling and what's the process and who we call to run the station and all those things have been getting worked on.
Okay, well, that's
It
more
takes- it's a
systems,
process.
that's more the systems operation manuals that is the
And
next item on the
protocols.
agenda. I think we're specifically talking about the emergency operation plans right now.
Okay,
I know we are.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so it's very specific to an emergency is happening, how do we keep the organization running?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's plenty of models that could be used, like the city, or obviously be parsed way down, but
Mhm.
So what are you,
Well, if the power goes down, we got, what, 4 hours on batteries before we have to commit to
Yes.
the generators?
it would all be in this plan.
Somewhere.
I'm suggesting, I don't know what the next step is, I don't expect it to be done, maybe we set a timeline of, I don't know if that's the best. Maybe, I don't wanna load the December agenda, but maybe in January, staff can come back to us with at least some sort of well thought out outline of what would be included, even if everything hasn't been hashed out, because I know with the holidays and I don't wanna push it to have to be done.
Are we contributing to this plan? And if so, are we moving into the operations business again? Or are we asking it to be done and presented to us?
No, I'm asking about, I'm just saying like brainstorming some of, or being able to just show us what some of the things would be for our input, it's not.
We're working on it, and we'll certainly
Yeah.
do a presentation when it looks like we've got something that's worth this solid and ready to go.
I'm just asking for
okay.
us to be able to see it.
I think we're
Yeah,
giving
we'll present it.
direction and asking for
Presentation.
yeah,
We said,
that's how I understood it.
Yeah.
So what's a reasonable amount of time? 3 months? 3 more months?
Well, if they've been working on it, what is a reasonable time?
I just threw that one out.
yeah.
Yeah, what,
What do you feel is a reasonable target date to have this presentation ready for the board?
Well,
February 1st?
Well, yeah, I mean, the
How about
board
if-
meeting
we could
date.
set a target We could set a target.
Well, we have to agendize it, so.
We, my concern is, time, really.
What do you need?
Okay, so what, yeah, which board meeting do you want this agendized for? Which month?
Which months before next year fire season?
Which is in the fall,
Late summer or
late
fall?
summer.
According to T.
I'm thinking of the
March.
next agenda item. When we have that discussion, I would like the due date for that to be before this one. Because as you said, the emergency operations plan needs to be ready for fire season, which is next summer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we're not having the discussion yet, but I'm going to expect the next agenda item to be ready before way before fire season.
What's
Yeah.
the next agenda?
Systems operations manual.
Oh.
Day to day, yeah.
They're kind of happening simultaneously, because they
No.
do connect. That's how we've been doing it, is simultaneously. There's a lot of projects that are being built up at the same time. That have been getting built up at the same time.
Okay, give us the month that you'll be
How about
ready with
March?
just emergency operations plan. Do not incorporate the systems operation manuals in that.
Mhm. Well, let's see, how about March?
The March meeting?
Yeah,
Okay?
Okay,
March board meeting.
Okay, no action. March meeting. Okay, item 11D is the discussion of possible action to develop systems operation manuals. And as we just talked about, those are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Systems operations manual is something that I never even thought about until we had interviewed Anne Marie Lafferty, who is now our access supervisor. During her interview, she talked about going to work for an organization that didn't have systems operations manual, and her being a very meticulous person said she was mortified, and she actually created one for, do you remember that?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
created one for that organization. And the way that I understood it, as she explained it, the systems operations manual is any member of a team can leave the organization, be it they get hit by a bus or they quit or whatever. If we don't know what that person's doing,
Mm-hmm.
then how do we expect somebody to come in and backfill that person? So,
Mhm.
so a systems operation manual sounds like something we absolutely need, because
Agreed.
I could not tell anyone coming in how to take over any of your positions. I mean, including yours. I think I know quite a bit about your position, but yours is the only one, and that's because I've worked closely with the executive director all these years. But other than that, I couldn't tell you anything
Mhm.
about it, and which has also made me realize how important everybody on the team is. But we need to have a manual that defines how we operate. Is anybody in disagreement with that?
Mm-mm.
No?
No,
Okay,
absolutely not.
but I don't wanna wait until fire season to have it done either, I mean,
As I've said, the operations manual has been getting worked on since I arrived.
okay,
Jeff has been building
good
up and
news.
completing, well, here's the list of the ones here again, this is
Right.
the list I mentioned to you before. The various documents for a lot of what he works on in particular. Many items aren't on there yet. We need the radio station processes to be
yeah, this is like
created.
getting down into the weeds.
Yeah. It looks,
Yeah,
the
and this
titles
is
are
Jeff,
Jeff
but,
titles, but they're systems, they're
Yeah.
from, you know, when the minute you get in there until you finish your show, how does that happen? Or how do things connect to each other? How does it work? How does it all, you know, work together? So it is the operations manual that you're thinking we need. it's in the process, and we're working on it. We had a meeting about it yesterday, as a matter of
Have you
fact.
been working at all with Anne Marie on that?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
Yeah,
You wanna see
Everybody-
that one?
well-
You probably understand it more.
mostly
Since-
Jeff has been working on it, and Anne Marie is encouraging and working on her systems as well. She's creating, you know,
Okay.
she's new in the position just as I am, and so we're creating these as we learn and go
Right,
along. Jeff picks away at it as best he can, you know, in and around his other tasks.
yeah, but
Um,
since she has done it before, I'm pretty sure she probably has a format that would be pretty good to follow,
Jeff
so
said
that
it
we
before.
don't have to recreate the wheel.
No, no, it's already created. Jeff's been working on it, he's
Is
written
there a
manuals
table
as
of
well.
contents yet?
That's the working table of contents.
This is more of a
No,
table of contents,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the table of contents,
because these file sizes are kind of small.
yeah. Well, it's print, so it's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna, file sizes aren't gonna be gigantic. And they're individual sheets, like one page.
I didn't see
Diagrams and-
automation on there. Is the automation on there?
No.
Not yet, that's coming. We talked about that in our
Okay, so
meeting yesterday.
when can we see a complete table of contents as it would look?
Give it a month, next meeting.
Sweet. Okay, so. I like it. So then that will go on the December meeting.
Mhm.
Very nice, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Item 11E, discussion and possible action to update and finalize all job descriptions. I don't know, there's so many versions of all the job descriptions out there that I have absolutely no idea which one is final, and I believe you are thinking the same thing.
I've just never seen a real job description, to be quite honest with you. I've seen paragraphs describing what people do, and they must exist. But I mean, even when we got the executive director one, it wasn't a job description. It wasn't written as a job description.
Exactly, to me, a job description is like what we just posted online for the executive director. That to me is what a job description looks like.
See,
Well, that one
Well,
had,
wouldn't
that's
it-
not the final one we just put out, but that's the old one, and
wouldn't this
We-
be part of
Basically.
the operations manual?
And
What-
The job descriptions, maybe not the job description, but there would be tasks,
I mean,
I think.
yeah.
I mean, it could be an attachment.
Yeah,
But there would be-
I would
there
like
would
to see
not have
something
to.
in a format like this, like what I just emailed out to all of you on what the executive director's employment requirements are, and I don't know. I mean, have you, which version of the job descriptions are you following?
That's not fair, she doesn't know what they're called.
Yes, she
I don't
does.
think the versions have names or numbers.
There are,
Yeah.
there are versions, there is a version, a most recent one that I found on Dawn's computer, not mine. And I don't know how accurate they are to what each individual is doing. I know that to take a television, radio station and to extract the various job descriptions or job positions that there are to run one of those stations, it depends on, you know, how big the station is and how much money they have, which would determine what each of those individual people actually needed to do. They have a title of all the different aspects of the station that you need to run it, and then if you've got 5 people doing that, then one person is gonna wear several hats. It's going to bleed over into other areas. And so to some extent, that's happening at PCA. So there's the official description of what people are doing, and then there's what's actually happening to everyone working to make it go.
And what we've been asking for not from you, but like
Yes.
for years, I guess, is developing an actual job description for each position. It's understood that in every government agency, nonprofit agency, you're gonna be helping people out and doing several things, but we need something in this format of every
I
single
agree.
employee based on what they're actually doing.
I agree.
Yes, and almost every job description will list what that person is responsible for, but then it also ends other duties as needed. Yes.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
hate
Yep,
that one.
So,
Which covers
Everything
what you're
else.
talking about.
exactly. So, yeah.
so if you cut out some portions of what you put online to advertise
Yes.
for a job, that's what you're looking for, that
Right.
chunk.
I'm looking
And
for
that should
something,
be in every section going forward in your operations manual, what that task, that person's responsible for. That job description should be
well, more
there.
importantly, what we need it for, it doesn't matter where it lives, what we need is, like this man that called me today from the Bill Graham Foundation. He might have been calling me to say, well, I need to know, what exactly does your access supervisor do? Well, I have a job description for that, can I send it to you? I have nothing to send them. I can't describe over the phone, because I know nothing about that job. And the same for you, you might get that call and get that question, Jill, so, you know, we can't just.
Well, you're kind of preaching to the choir, because it's something that I've been
Yeah.
trying to assess since I got there, and it is true that everyone kind of wears different hats, and, you know, most everyone wears different hats. So, that can be added. Typically, though, it would have been already done, so I'm
Right.
concerned that the time factor that I have to work with every week, that's part of my job too, which it should be, but I mean, if it's added to, I don't know, you know, there's the writing of the grants and the funding and following all the
Got it.
administrative, so I'm concerned that, for a lot of the systems that are not in place, that weren't in place when I arrived, that need to be in place, you know,
Could the staff,
when can I do that?
the staff can't just send you bullet points of what they do?
They do. The staff is, they're working on all of the things that I've been driving them to do and making them a little crazy.
Well, I mean, a job description isn't like every single nitty gritty.
Kinda, it has a lot in there.
It is the way we do them.
It has a lot in there.
It is, but, you know.
No, I mean, we're doing it in a big, reviewing all the miscellaneous employees at work, and some of my job descriptions just hit 5 pages today,
Yeah.
yesterday, so.
I'm used to seeing SRJC job descriptions, and they're pretty comprehensive.
But, you know, when you start with that, you can always trim it down.
Yeah. So to be super accurate, and also moving forward. You know, the job descriptions are what they are now, and that's been serving PCA for the last several years.
Well, we've had to
but we're
shuffle them a
moving-
lot because of attrition until our stable, Jeff and Rob showed up, who are just
And
rock
Nellie.
solid. And Nellie, who've been here a long time.
Yeah.
We had a new person in some of these jobs every other month,
With
seems
access,
like.
yeah.
So we'd get somebody who was really good at this, but they couldn't do that, and we were advertising this, and, you know, John
Yeah.
was a master of shuffling the cards. you know.
Right,
Yeah,
and then
plus-
that's when you go back to what the actual roles are supposed to be in the professional world. You know,
Yeah, so-
what
yeah.
roles are people supposed to fulfill in the professional world, and then, you know,
So-
how much
so-
do you actually,
So the PCA job descriptions for the longest time were one of musical chairs.
yeah, and self-devised too, I believe that they were written by each individual person.
Yeah, he got input from them, yeah.
Yeah, like what do they want to be called, for example, the title, or what's the, you know,
It certainly
That's
looks
the-
that way.
is, you know.
It certainly
Okay,
looks that way.
well, I think it's time to not ask staff, what do they want to be called, and what would you like your job description to look like? I think it's time that we get a little bit more professional about it and write these job descriptions.
Mhm. And what's gonna serve us moving down the road, because, you know, up till now, we haven't done a whole lot with TV production or programming. We could do much more. And now we're moving, you know, full bore into that direction as well, which is going to expand our programming needs. It's not really just radio programming as much, as there's going to be quite a strong television programming aspect as well that needs to be addressed. So, that, you know, there's, where are we going? It's not just where we're at now, but where are we going and how do we accommodate that? You know, short-term, mid-term, long-term, like in the next 6 months,
Okay,
or next year.
so why don't we set a goal to have this all taken care of by the January meeting?
Taken care of meaning, job descriptions?
Look at all these versions, figure out what exactly is going to be the actual final version of the job descriptions, and then we get those incorporated into the systems operation manual.
For the January meeting.
Would that be acceptable, you think? And I'd be happy to work with you on that. Tim, do you have some kind of templates or something that you guys follow?
We have
City
100
Hall.
brand new ones as of yesterday. Whose would you like?
Do you have just like a generic supervisor or a manager or an admin assistant and something that might apply that we can, just the template?
I think
They're
we
not
can,
templates,
We
they're all
had
filled out.
we had a template at Kaiser that we used, and I don't have access to it anymore, but it summarized, it said, job description, radio manager, I'm just making stuff up, Rob, I'm not just saying what this is gonna be, but job description, radio manager, give a summary of what it is. Duties of the radio manager, and then the bullet points, and.
So,
You do the
I don't have radio
classification.
manager, but I have admin assistant.
I think templates that are industry
How
related. would
how
be
about
more
IT
useful.
I have
Well,
IT
okay,
positions I'm more
where
familiar.
are we gonna find those? I'm just saying.
Online, I mean,
We can't make stuff up, we have
Yeah.
to, yeah,
we will
okay.
do it.
Well, I
Okay.
could send you mine, or send you ours.
Great.
So I have like an IT technician and an analyst, you could call them different things.
Okay,
I can send you an admin assistant.
okay.
I mean, I'm not saying, Nellie
These
does a
are-
lot of what an admin assistant does,
These are the
but
level
she-
of
she's got
detail
more
that relatively
responsibility.
you could steal a lot of the words out of.
Sure, yeah.
And
Okay.
at least you could say, okay, this format works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then go online and find something industry related,
Yeah.
and let's get this out of the way.
Yep. Yeah,
Perfect. January meeting. Okay.
Okay, send these to Jill.
so these are my priority now. These items are my priority. The systems manual, the job descriptions finalized, the emergency system protocol is my, those are my new, just to be clear, right? Because like right now, I'm writing letters for funding and stuff,
Okay,
which takes.
and please don't try to do all this work yourself. Let them, let the
Absolutely,
staff,
sure,
let the staff work on it too.
they only have so much time to. So yeah, I definitely am trying to
You
spread it
know
out
what they do,
as
it
much as
shouldn't take too
possible.
long to draft something, and
Well, we like to be
and then
well thought out.
we'll,
Well, so so ours, we just went through a big classification study.
Mm-hmm,
So they figured out all the titles that are modern and suitable to the future
mm-hmm.
for, they didn't change very many of them. And duties and tasks and
Mhm.
qualifications have been, redone or rewritten. And it's a basic job description format. I
Mhm.
think it's a good place you could start
Okay,
with.
great, thank you.
And I can walk you through why they did some of this and some of that.
Mm-hmm,
So if I do the IT ones, I know the origins and the whys and the hows and
Okay.
stuff, so.
great.
And they're closer to, Radio Rob
Radio Rob?
than a finance person,
yeah, exactly, yeah, and it really should be in.
Well, they're technical jobs, so you have some of the technical language.
Correct.
Okay, I think we're done.
Awesome.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Wow, that was quick.
No closed session?
Nope, we don't have anything for closed session.
Did you keep that EOC over there? You're welcome
Yeah,
to have it.
yeah.
You're welcome to have it, I think you should actually.
If you want, email it, please.
Anyone opposed to the adjournment? Nope, all approved.
Don't care.
Okay.
Don't care.